Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to my March and April reading wrap up. I this year decided I'm going to start every 2 months to do a little reading wrap up because I have been full blown into reading. If you saw my January and February, you know I read like 11 books, which is crazy because I'm a full-time college student. I have a job, but I've been loving reading lately. I just wanted to document this big year of reading. I did slow down a little bit on reading these past 2 months, but I still want to get this video out to you all and show you all what I've been reading. I just went to 7 Brew, got a large. I'm not sure why I did that. I didn't realize how large 7 Brew drinks were. This is like a cowboy blondie cookie butter something. It's good though. I think in March let's go ahead and get into March. So the first book I read in March was Just Friends by Haley Pham. If you have not seen the reading vlog, I give a full-on review, honest opinion, reactions, all that. But I did rate this book 4 stars. I personally love the book. I thought it was a great beginner novel. I related to it personally, and that's kind of where my rating comes in a lot, is if I relate to it, or if it was a really good book, or if I related to it. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's just like I saw an aspect in it that I could see myself in, and I felt understood. And personally in this book, I felt really understood because it's about these two characters. They were friends / dated in high school, and then they had this like falling out. You don't really know what happens, and then they try again, and that's something I can relate to. And it's also a beautiful story about grief and all that, so I really like that. And it's about like coming home from college and going to your hometown, all that I can relate to. So 4 stars. It was so good. And also, if you know, I did 75 Holy this year, and one of it was reading 10 pages of a Christian book. And in March I kind of finished it up and like kept this habit of reading 10 pages of a Christian book like basically every night before bed. The book I read for one of the books for that is Pray First by The Transformative Power of a Life Built on Prayer by Chris Hodges. This book was really good. It broke down prayer. It gave you prompts of how to pray, and like why to pray and how to pray, and like it took you through the Lord's Prayer. I thought it was very informational. I don't rate nonfiction books. And the next book I actually read because Destiny Sidwell recommended it, and it sounded really good from her video, one of her videos. So it was An Academic Affair by Jodi McAllister, and it's these two people. Obviously, I'm so bad about names. Let me look. I'm on Goodreads right now because I've still yet to hardly read any physical books. I think Just Friends was the only physical book I read. Sadie and Jonah. I'm awful with names. So Sadie and Jonah, they have been rivals since college, and they're now like in their 30s working at a university, and they've always like been like neck and neck. There's one great percentage under each other, debating each other, always just at each other's throat, basically trying to go after the same thing. And so they decide that they're living in this like apartment together with some of their friends, and this job opportunity comes along, and one gets it but the other doesn't. They realized it would be a lot better for everyone's situation if they dated. And I'm just gonna leave it at that because I went into this book not knowing like anything about it, so I'm gonna leave it at that. And it was so good. I rated it 4 stars. I was giggling the whole time. Like the banter in this book was so good. Like I haven't read good banter in a book in a while. This also focuses on like sibling relationship and how that might look, like a girl to a guy, girl to girl, like sister to sister, brother to sister, like you know what I mean, and like brother to brother. Like it was really cool to like how it focused on family dynamics. And like we are now in April. I only read 3 books in March. I read Entering the Passion of Jesus, A Beginner Guide to Holy Week by Amy Jill Levine. And what was interesting about this book was this lady is actually not Christian, Jewish, and you're like, why is she writing about this? Well, she's a professor. I'm not sure what college, but like she's like a Bible professor. She's a religion professor, and she has like researched Holy Week and like the history behind it. So it wasn't so much like believe in Jesus. It like gave you like the history, and like because she studied the Old Testament because she's Jewish, and like she knows the Old Testament. The things Jesus did, here's the Old Testament proof. Here's the history. This is why Jesus did what he did. I loved it. It was so good how someone sees Holy Week from a historical, researched perspective. And I think I want to read it every year, Holy Week. Winning the War in Your Mind, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life by Greg Rochelle. Now this author was on Sadie Robertson's podcast maybe like a month ago at this point, and I loved him. He talked about one of his newer books, but he mentioned this book, and I just really liked what he had to say. Like, this guy seems like a really good person, so I started reading his book, and I'm reading another one. I'm in the middle of reading another one right now. I'm in the middle of reading like 5 books right now, and it was talking about like what the mind does. It went into like the neuroness of a mind and all the things like that. And then I finally finished Who's That Girl by Mari McFarlane. I was listening to this on audiobook, and it took me a while because it is like a long book, I think. Like, I don't know how many pages it is because I had audiobook, but it felt like a long. Okay, yeah, it's almost 500 pages, so it's like a long book, and because so much happens. So basically, Eddie, her name's Edith, but Eddie is this girl. She's working at this publishing. She goes to a wedding of a coworker, and the guy chases her, which it was unprompted. She didn't do anything. She was just talking to the groom, normal. And so it blows up in her face. She has to move home. She's forced to start writing this book of this stuck-up celebrity, and it's just like for the first, I'm not kidding, 50%, I wasn't sure who the love interest was, because it kept going back and forth between these 3 different people, and I was like, well, she's not having a connection with any of these people, but it was good and I liked it. It just took me a second to get through it because like it hooks you in from the beginning, but it also lulls out for a while. So I've been reading this. I have it on Goodreads, reading it since January 20th. So, but once I finally like said, okay, I'm gonna read it, because I probably haven't picked it up since February. I was like, I'm going to finish. It was good. I did like it. It just took me a second to like fully get through it and listen to it on audiobook. The second to last book I read in April, The Assassin's Blade, because I'm reading the Throne of Glass series, and this is the reading order I'm doing in case you're curious. I looked up on Pinterest, and this was the first one. This one seemed the most promising, but Assassin's Blade is actually like the prequel, so some people will read it before reading Assassin's Blade and the second one, but I read 1, 2, then this one, and so I already knew what was going to happen. But it was so good to see her Selena's start, and like how she like her childhood basically. It was so good, and I was so sad, and I knew it was going to happen, and I still was tearing. I read this in 2 days. I almost finished it on the day I got it. And then the last book I read in April was The Friend Zone, which is by Abby Jimenez, and it's an interconnected series. This is number 1. I actually read number 3, and now I'm going to read number 2 here soon. But I rated it 4 stars. Again, I was reading this book since March, so it's been like a month. I was reading it on my Kindle, and I think it just took me a second to get into it, and I just couldn't really get into it. But then when I finally did, I was like, oh, this is kind of good. Christain is this girl. She has a boyfriend who's in the military, but she doesn't really see him often, and she's fine with that. Then in comes Josh Copeland, who he's this firefighter. Kirsten's best friend's soon-to-be fiance is a firefighter, so like they live in like this firefighter community, and he comes in, starts working at the station, and then he helps Kirsten with her business, and she's starting to think maybe she doesn't want that comfortable not seeing her boyfriend a lot. Maybe she wants to see another guy. So there is no cheating. When it first happened, I was like, is she going to cheat? There is no cheating. So if you're like, you hear that and you're like, I don't like a cheating trope, there is no cheating in this. But a lot more happens. I don't want to say anything. And like I'm saying, like I was like jaws on the floor. Beginning of the gym Wednesday, 80% through. Start reading it. I get to this cliffhanger. I'm like, oh my gosh. So as I'm getting ready for classes, I'm like reading it because I'm like, now I wanted to just kind of do a quick little run through all the books I'm reading right now, because I'm reading on Goodreads. It says I'm currently in between one. So the main book I'm reading right now, the one I'm like physically reading, I actually have a physical copy of it because my roommate let me borrow it. So I'm reading The Archer's Voice by Mira Sheridan. I will save this for my next review, but my roommate recommended it to me and handed it to me and said, read this before you move out. So I'm reading it before you move out. And then I'm listening to You Belong With Me, which is in the second series of Who's That Girl by Mari McFarlane. Then I'm also reading The Power to Change by Greg Rochelle. Really liked him. I'm reading The Surrogate Mother. These 2 next books I haven't read in a hot minute. Like I started reading it and I've never finished. So The Surrogate Mother by Frida McFadden. I was in this big thriller phase, got out of the big. Saving Six by Boysa Tallman. I'm really trying to get through the series, but it's been like 2 years since I've read the first 2. And I thought when I was in my big reading phase, I could get through it, but that basically put me into a reading slump. That's all the books I'm reading right now. It's a lot, but maybe I'll do a video of trying to read all the books that my Goodreads says I'm reading, because it's kind of stressing me out. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, I love you, but most importantly, Jesus loves you.